everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Erica with Confessions of a Homeschooler, and this is another video in my How to Knit series. So in my last video, I showed you how to cast on using the long tail cast on. Today we're going to talk about the basic stitch, the knit stitch, and how to go about doing that. Now, as you can see, I have already done a cast on of a few stitches here. If you want to follow me, make sure to go ahead and cast on. I did 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, let's do 16 just to keep it even, 16 stitches, and then you can knit along with me. So the knit stitch is usually indicated by a large K on any of the patterns that you are reading. So you might see something that says K1 or K2, that means to knit 1 stitch or knit 2 stitches. You might see something else like K2TOG, that would indicate knit 2 together. I'm not going to be getting into those more complicated stitches, it's really not that complicated, but today we're just going to learn the very basics of the knit stitch. I just wanted you to know what it looks like on a pattern. So I have cast on some stitches here, and I'm going to go ahead, here's my tail, I'm going to put that off to the side, and here is my working yarn. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the knit stitch. Now this is extremely easy, but one of the things that I find for beginners is they get mixed up with which way the needle goes in. So when you are doing a knit stitch, you're going to want to make sure that your needle tips are facing the same direction. You do not want to go in this way with them facing opposite directions. That will result in a purl, and we will be covering purls in our next video. So to knit, we've got, again, our working yarn is towards the back here. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to place it, again, going the same direction as my other needle, in the front of this stitch and kind of out the back. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let's do that one more time. We're going to go sort of in through the front. It's really kind of the bottom, but in through the front and out through the back. Then we're going to take our working yarn and go around the back. It's like counterclockwise is the movement. So your yarn's coming out this way. We're going to go counterclockwise around the needle that you put in. So this is your working needle. This is where your stitches are all at. And we're going to kind of hang on to that. And the motion here is to pull that through. So this yarn right here is this yarn right here. This yarn right here is the one that's already on the stitch. Okay, so let's just do that one more time. I'm going to take my needle, put it in going again the same direction and out the back. Grab my yarn, run it clockwise around my needle, and then I just kind of give it a little bit of tension here. If you have to hang on, I'll show you how to tension your yarn in just a minute, but I want you to get the stitch. Kind of hang on to it. That way you can pull, and I even use this finger to kind of push my needle down a little bit, and you can pull that stitch through. Once you've got that stitch on the right hand needle, you can then slide it off your left hand needle and let it go. Okay. Now, as far as tensioning your yarn goes, you can do it a million different ways. This is just kind of what works for me. When I first started, I tension it with my pinky finger, so you can kind of just wrap your pinky finger around, and then that kind of helps you hang on to the yarn so you can get a little tension. You can put it around your ring finger, whatever works best for you. At this point, I think I kind of do, yeah, something like that. It doesn't matter, but let's do your pinky finger for now. And by the way, this is English style knitting. I will show you how to do a continental knit stitch in a separate video. Same stitch, just different movement. Okay, so let's move on. And now we're going to take again our right hand needle and place it into this first stitch on our left hand needle, again with our tips going the same direction and out the back. Take your same working yarn, wrap it around the back counterclockwise, and then pull that stitch out and pull that off. Okay, and so this is the motion: in through the front, counterclockwise, pull your stitch off and scoot it off. And I keep these stitches scooted up just so they're ready to go. One of the things you'll have a hard time with is if these stitches are too far down on your needle and you're pulling and you can't get them off. So I keep them actually pretty close to the tip of my needle here. So again, in the front, out the back, wrap it around counterclockwise and pull it through and pull it off. And I am just going to go ahead and continue doing this stitch so that you can see the motion. Okay, so in the front, out the back, wrap it around counterclockwise and pull it off. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. One is where you actually let go of this needle and you have your hand and you kind of are physically moving it around. This is how my daughter finds it to be easiest for her. I think it just helps her kind of keep tension on this by being able to let go of her right hand needle to do the yarn. Once you get a little bit better with this motion and you're more comfortable with this motion, I suggest trying flicking, which is how I do it now. And you will want to, again, tension your yarn, hang on to it. And I put my yarn kind of so my yarn is resting between my fingernail and my knuckle here. It doesn't stay there perfectly, but that's a good guide for you. And I'm just holding it out here. So as you can see, I've got tension on my yarn. I'm going to go ahead and put it through the stitch there. And then instead of letting go of this entire needle, I actually just use my finger to flick it around the top. This is called flicking. Okay, so we're going to do that. As you can see, I'm not letting go of my needle at all. I'm just using my finger. Well, I guess I kind of let go of that one, but I'm just using my finger. And that reduces your motions a little bit and makes it a little bit easier. As you can see, now you've got your cast on edge here, and then you've got these tiny little V's, and that is one row of knit stitches. Okay, the back side, as you can see, has these little kind of horizontal bumps. Those are purl bumps. This will become more evident as our sample gets a little bit larger. Okay, so we've gone all the way down the end. We're going to turn our needle around, and we're just going to keep practicing the knit stitch here. So I'm going to just start out like I did last time. I've got my yarn kind of coming out here. I'm just going to put my needle in and pull it through. And you're going to just want to practice this motion until this becomes really nice and smooth and easy for you. It's going to seem, oops, I grabbed my, it's going to seem awkward at first. It's going to probably be easier for you to let go and physically move your yarn like that. But as you get going, I definitely suggest challenging yourself, trying to tension your yarn a little bit and do this flicking motion. It will become a lot faster for you, and the more you practice it, the faster you will become, and it's a little bit less stressful, I think, on your muscles and on your hands as well, to not be so letting go of things and fidgety. And if you have looser stitches here, your needle can fall out, and it's just kind of nicer not to be letting go of this right hand needle every time you need to go around. Now, one of the tricks, let me get to the end of this row and then I'll kind of show you one of my tricks here. I am going faster, so if you need to, you can go rewind this video a little bit. Okay, we're going to turn our needle again. And now you can probably see we've got a row of purl bumps here now, and then this was our first row of knit stitches. We're going to do, whoops, another row of knit stitches. Okay, so we just turned our needle around. Just make sure you don't grab your tail. Make sure you grab your working yarn that's going to your ball. Okay, so in the front, making sure your tips are going the same direction, round clockwise, counterclockwise. Pull it through and pull it off. Now, one of the things that I'm doing here is I'm using this hand to scoot these stitches closer and closer. I'm kind of using this finger to make sure this one doesn't escape off my tip, and I'm using this thumb to keep these stitches pulling down. So I've got this one protecting this so it doesn't come off. I wrap my yarn around, pull it off, and then I grab it with this thumb and kind of scoot it down. And then on this side, I'm scooting them up. So this hand is constantly feeding stitches, this hand is pulling the stitches down, and it's kind of scooting my material for me. Hopefully that makes sense. But for right now, just worry about getting your knit stitch going the right way. Just make sure your tips are facing the same direction. So you're essentially going in this from left to right. Hopefully that makes sense. And then again, feed your stitches with this hand and pull them down with this hand. It's a lot going on, so just take your time and practice getting the motion down of the knit stitch. Now, quickly, if you are having a hard time and say you put this in and accidentally slip it off, and you're like, how do I get it back? Don't worry, you can always just slide it back onto your left hand needle, except you need to pick it up again going the same direction that your tips are, if that makes sense. Okay, so we put it in and slide it off this way. You need to pick it back up that way. Okay, otherwise you will twist your stitch, and I will talk about twisted stitches in another video. That was one of my main beginning questions, was how do I tell if I've twisted a stitch or not, and does it matter? And so I will show you what that looks like in another video. But if you accidentally pull off your stitch, don't worry, just put it back in on your left needle exactly how you took it off and keep on going. And this is your basic knit stitch. You can do any pattern that calls for garter or knit just by knowing this one stitch. Okay, and so here's our little sample. That's what it's looking like so far. You can really start to see the knit stitches right here, these little V's, and our little purl bumps right here, and same on our back side. You can see our purl bumps from our first row, and if you look closely in between there, you can see those little V's, which were our knit rows. Okay, so that is the basic knit stitch. Continue practicing that. Every time you get to the end down here, just turn your work around and keep on going. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That way I know to keep making tutorials for you like this. And again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.